Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I'm Johnny Hemberger. And what am I holding in my hand right now? You can see it if you go to Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. And please subscribe. It takes no effort. Just subscribe. I mean, I drive around this town and I see people not using turn signals. If there's something that takes less effort than using a turn signal, it's clicking the subscribe button on Facebook. So just do it. You never have to watch me again. But just click the subscribe button. I think that you will, though. I think you love Geek Therapy Radio. And if you don't, that's fine, too. I still love you. Anyways, go into Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook and see what I'm holding. A DJI Mavic Pro. I finally got it. And I've been flying it around. I'm going to upload some footage to the Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. And you can see all the pretty sights that I see flying around with my DJI Mavic. Oh, it is so nice. And let me unfold it for you on YouTube so that you can see it. It's not new. This is not a new device on the market at all. It's been out for a year or so. But I finally got it because my Phantom 3 is indisposed, or the camera is. And I was like, well, I'm going to drop some coin anyways. Should I get the new Mavic, or should I just get a new camera for the Phantom 3? And I went ahead and got the Mavic, and I have no buyer's remorse. It is awesome. It is so cool. And yeah, go to Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook to see some footage from the DJI Mavic. I thought about recording a segment of Geek Therapy Radio just with the Mavic in tripod mode, where it basically just hovers in place, rock solid. But then I was like, you know what? All the microphone would pick up would be for the entire segment, and that's not good radio. So yeah, got my DJI Mavic, and I am going to move on to what I was going to talk about this segment, which is the new Nvidia GTX 1070 Ti. I said I was going to call Nvidia a Fartknocker for this. Nvidia, you are a Fartknocker for releasing the GTX 1070 Ti. Let me explain why. Like the Razer phone, the product itself is wonderful. There's nothing wrong, depending how you look at it, with the GTX 1070 Ti. The problem with it is where it's placed in the marketplace and what it does to AMD, Nvidia's competitor, which the capitalist side of me is thinking, I don't care what it does to the competitor. That's the whole point of that benefits the consumer, is the competition in the marketplace. Unless we're talking about healthcare, then it benefits nobody. But anyways, yeah, the 1070 Ti basically just Nvidia or AMD released the Vega 56 and 64 GPUs, which are not very power efficient and do not compete at all with the GTX 1080, and especially not the 1080 Ti, and especially not the Titan X. So the Vega 56 and 64 fits somewhere in between the GTX 1070 and GTX 1080 from Nvidia. So why Nvidia is a Fartknocker morally is they said, our competitor AMD released these video cards that fit right neatly between the performance of our GTX 1070 and our GTX 1080. What can we do to assert dominance in that little tiny area between the 1070 and the 1080? We'll release the 1070 Ti, which is just barely less powerful than the GTX 1080. Basically, you can think of the 1070 Ti as a budget 1080. It uses the same architecture, uses the same chip. The only area where it's different is a slightly lower core clock, and the GTX 1080 uses GDDR5X memory, and the 1070 Ti uses just plain old GDDR5. So basically what this does is it's overclockable, of course. You can overclock it. I'm not going to get into the whole rub of base clocks being locked for third-party manufacturers. Let's say MSI wants to release their version of the GTX 1070 Ti. The base clock, they can't alter with that. It's still, the base clock is locked to, where is it? I can bring up the figure, but it really doesn't entirely matter. The point is that the base clock is locked even for third-party manufacturers, which some argue is kind of a D move on Nvidia's part, and for some reason I can't bring up the GTX 1070 page, but whatever. Oh, here it is. So the base clock of the 1070 Ti, the core clock, is 1607 megahertz, and that's locked. So a third-party manufacturer can't bring it up to 1700 megahertz per se, base clock, core clock. It can still overclock. You can still use MSI Afterburner or whatever third-party program you have to overclock the card and get really great results from the 1070 Ti. A 1070 Ti overclocked beats a 1080's base clock, standard clock, non-overclock. And that kind of, I just don't know really what to think about the 1070 Ti, because it seems like, and I'll just say it because I'm past the watershed, it seems like a dick move on Nvidia's part, because basically the 1070 Ti's performance, give or take in certain applications, is, let's just say, equal to the AMD Vega 56. Let's say it's just equal. So that means, and roughly the 60, whatever. Nvidia that was a direct kill shot. That was a direct headshot kill shot at AMD. Because who would I recommend the 1070 Ti to? Nobody. Should you go out and buy the Nvidia GTX 1070 Ti when for just a couple extra dollars you can have a full-fledged 1080 in GDDR5X memory? Should anyone buy the GTX 1070 Ti when the 1080 exists? Sure you can. I don't recommend it. I don't know why you would. It's so close in performance to the 1080, and then especially when you overclock, it's a little better than a 1080. Then again, a 1080 overclocked will be better than the 70 Ti. So that's my issue with it. There was no reason to release the 1070 Ti other than to put the kill shot on AMD's Vega 56 and 64 GPUs. Is the 1070 Ti, in my opinion, a better card than, let's say, the AMD Vega 56? Yes, marginally. You know why? It's not even because performance figures. It's because of the efficiency. It's just because the TDP is lower than AMD's product. So that's why if you're, I struggle so much with a 1070 Ti. Am I gonna get one? No, I am not gonna get a 1070 Ti. It seems pointless to me. If I want a 1070 Ti, I will overclock a 1070. A 1070 is cheaper. And if I want a 1070 Ti, I'll just get a 1080 because it's only a little bit more expensive. What is the point of the 1070 Ti? Why did you do this, Nvidia? And again, like, I know it was a kill shot at AMD's Vega offerings. With that, if someone gave me a 1070 Ti for free, I'd take it. What I'm rocking in my system right now, my gaming setup, is still a 980, not even a 980 Ti. And I'm debating whether I want to go with getting just another 980 and doing an SLI setup, even though like hardly any games are set up for SLI to take advantage, to optimize SLI. So if someone wanted to give me a 1070 Ti to upgrade my old 980, sure, I take it. Am I going to spend my own money on a 1070 Ti? No. Would I spend my own money on a 1080? Probably. Would I spend my own money on a 1080 Ti? Yeah, if I had the funds. Absolutely, I'd do that. 1070 Ti is beast mode. It's like 90 whatever percent as good as a Titan at a fraction of the cost. And unless you're doing lots of 3D rendering, like that's your profession, then there's no reason to get a Titan X when you can have a 1080 Ti that is just marginally less. And as far as gaming goes, negligible. And as far as performance goes. So 1070 Ti, I don't understand why it exists other than just to be a fart knocker to AMD. More Geek Therapy Radio coming up. Use this break to go like Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook and go subscribe to Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube and go follow Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram. I post some cool stuff on there, some nerdy stuff. I don't even know what to talk about in the next segment. It's going to be kind of a shorter segment since I'm taking so long with these segments. I think I'm going to get nostalgic a little bit about some old 8-bit computing. Yeah, I am. So stick around. More Geek Therapy Radio to come. We're going to wrap it up after the next segment. I'm Johnny Hemberger, your mental curator. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. On Spreaker, on iTunes, on the iHeartRadio app. Just subscribe to the podcast and you'll have me each week commercial free. Johnny Hemberger, Geek Therapy Radio. Geeks are sexy. We'll be right back.